Gender describes the traits that are associated with and assigned to biological sex. All discussions about men and women revolve around gender. When gender issues are discussed, people almost always get angry and emotional. Men get angry, women get angry, non-binary people get angry, everyone gets angry. Gender issues are often extremely controversial and divisive. Everyone has strong opinions, and people are prone to getting very emotional. So much so that gender issues have increasingly been exploited by the political right due to the discontent that the mere thought of them produces, especially in men. Of course, many women also have very strong views on gender issues. In my view, gender-related issues are probably the most controversial subject you can discuss. Everyone has strong opinions on it. Everyone is emotionally invested in the debate. Gender is an enormous part of people's lives. It has massive influence on how we perceive both others and ourselves. It heavily influences the traits we seek to exemplify and avoid. Its influence is so great that we are often blind to it. Gender is tied up in our sense of identity and self-worth. This level of emotional significance contributes to the extremely contentious nature of these issues. Everyone has had significant experiences that relate to their gender. Everyone has been personally impacted by gender, often in very, very personal ways. The other thing that makes these issues very controversial is their complexity. Racial oppression is relatively straightforward. Black people have it worse than white people in almost every way. You name the stat, black people almost certainly have it worse. Gender, however, is a far more complex issue. Gender is anything but simple. Women face many struggles. Rape culture, widespread misogyny, the gender pay gap, unpaid labour, a lack of representation in powerful positions, being treated like second-class citizens in many countries, and much more. Overall, I think it is inarguable that women have it worse than men, but not as clearly and inarguably as black people do when compared to white people. Men have lower life expectancy and much higher suicide rates. Men are treated more harshly by the justice system. Men are far more likely to be sent to fight in a war. Men have more difficulty showing emotion. These issues are far more complex than racial issues, and this gives rise to strong opinions and very aggressive debates. Overall, it is my view that women are more oppressed, but ultimately gender oppresses everyone. Being a man has probably caused harm to most men at some point in their lives. Being a white person has not caused harm to most white people in their lives. Gender issues are far more complex and multifaceted than racial issues. Most people have probably suffered in ways that are connected to their gender. Most people probably have not consciously suffered in a way that relates to their race. Gender issues are very personal for people. Of course, gender also closely relates to sex and relationships, two subjects which inevitably provoke very strong emotions in many. This makes the debate even more controversial and even less rational. It becomes emotionally loaded and highly opinionated. In my view, gender issues are some of the most controversial political issues in existence. These issues provoke very strong emotions because they relate to very personal experiences. These issues provoke very strong emotions because they are very complex and consequential. When discussing these issues, we need to keep this in mind. That means being considerate and trying to understand other people. Don't assume that they are coming at things from a highly rational, ideological lens. Oftentimes, their views will be born out of emotion. Remembering that can help us to better engage in these discussions. Try to avoid getting offended. Try to avoid being too irrational. Some people falsely pretend that irrationality and emotion are female things. Discussions about gender issues prove that men are very capable of outcompeting women at these things. Discussions of gender issues transform many men into totally irrational and emotional beings. Just look at the following that Andrew Tate has acquired. Look at the legions of incels online. People are emotionally invested in these issues. Perhaps it is time to just do away with gender and all of the many problems it has caused. I do believe that both men and women would be in a far better position if gender didn't exist at all. Imposing standards of behaviour on people based on their biological sex is an obviously bad idea. Insecurity, self-hatred, and mental enslavement seem like logical conclusions of such a thing. Oftentimes gender abolition seems like a pretty common-sense solution to these increasingly painful debates. You cannot be emotionally fixated on gender issues if gender does not exist. You cannot be hurt by gender standards if gender does not exist.